watch right now on the Front News project. Exclusive footage, Ukrainian underwater special forces in action. The Crimean Bridge should get ready, its days are numbered. Putin's nutcracker will soon be in Belarus. A real threat of nuclear war or just Putin's usual blackmail? And also the rout of Russian paratroopers in Donbas. Exclusive frontline footage. Fiery, intense, and blazing frontline footage watch right now. It's the fourth year of the full-scale war that Putin's Russia started on Ukrainian soil. The Ukrainian armed forces continue to heroically defend not only their homeland, but the entire civilized world from the aggression of Kremlin war criminals. Greetings! This is Front News. I'm Volodymyr Tymoshenko. In the next 30 minutes, you'll get the truth about the war uncovered by our journalists from the hottest combat zones. So, are you ready? Then let's begin. And we're starting right away with exclusive material. A country without a navy, meaning Ukraine has defeated the Russian fleet. I'm sure you've heard this phrase quite often, but is it really true that only the signboard remains of the Ukrainian navy? Yes, the old fleet is gone, but Ukraine has revolutionized naval warfare not only with the concept of a mosquito fleet. TSN Week journalist Oksana Radionova, on the day of the naval forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, which was just a few days ago, decided to find out what lies behind these words and was truly amazed both by the real heroes and by the unexpected ultra-modern technologies. All the details are just for you.
It was their missiles that sank the flagship of Russia's Black Sea Fleet and drove away enemy ships. They operate in the sky, on land and underwater. These are the naval forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. This is the maritime front, our Black Sea. The silence all around is actually deceptive. We went out on combat duty on Navy boats. There is information about Shahid launches. The situation can change at any moment. The crew and their commander, call-sign Pirate, are on standby. Their tally of downed drones is impressive. Protecting flights to Odessa from the sea is also their mission. And that's in addition to reconnaissance, patrolling, demining, and special missions with naval landing parties. Hitting a drone when you're being tossed around by the waves isn't easy, says the machine gunner with the call sign Kotyara, especially at night. But his Browning
never fails.
Shows what it's made of.
The shooting is done by saturating the target, meaning that with the density of fire, the target just ends up flying right into the bullets.
He's been serving on the boat for a year. He's in love with the sea and only ever wanted to serve in the Navy. This is his first crew and his first combat boat ever. The Swedish CB-90 Combat POS-90, which, according to the manufacturer's specifications, can carry up to 20 fully equipped troops on board, as well as up to 4.5 tons of cargo. This is a Swedish development. Its main feature is that it's highly maneuverable and fast. Imagine, its top speed is 40 knots. That's almost 80 kilometers per hour.
This isn't a boat, it's practically an airplane.
The main one here is young but already an experienced pirate. He comes from a family of sailors. He's been in the Navy for 7 years. He used to serve on the American Island class. He says that Ukraine's Mosquito fleet, as outlined in the country's naval strategy, is rapidly transforming and becoming more formidable.
There are just so many of us. You know, it's like attacking a swarm of little piranhas. 100 little piranhas could eat a bulldog whole, bones and all.
We managed to rapidly expand our naval component, in particular to acquire the aforementioned CB-90s thanks to the Maritime Capability Coalition, which has been active since 2023. It was initiated by the United Kingdom and Norway. Now 24 partner countries have joined. The goal is singular, emphasizes the Navy commander.
We must become a maritime nation, not just a nation by the sea.
In 2014, along with Crimea, Russia seized 80% of the Ukrainian fleet. In 2022, they tried to steal the sea from us. But despite the enemy's advantages, the balance of power at sea was 12-1 at that time. Our defenders not only gave a worthy response, but also significantly reduced the number of enemy ships in the Black Sea Fleet. And at this moment, the Navy's Neptunes are keeping the enemy at least 100 nautical miles away from our shore. The first domestically produced anti-ship cruise missiles engaged the Russians from the very first days of the full-scale invasion. Without rehearsals or tests, the missile crews simply didn't have time for that. Ukraine urgently created a powerful coastal fist on the shorter coastal missile divisions. In addition to our own Neptunes, which we are actively modernizing at the moment, the Navy's missile crews are also working with American Harpoon anti-ship missiles. They have a range of 300 kilometers and played an active role in the return of Zmini Island.
We will definitely come back to this topic later today. But right now, let's analyze the operational situation on the blazing Pokrovsk front. The situation here, as usual, is extremely tense. On the Pokrovsk front, since the beginning of this day, Russian occupiers have made 40 attempts to push our soldiers from their positions in the areas of the settlements of Popov Yar, Razina, Mirolyubivka, Novoekonomichna, Lisivka, Shevchenko, Novokrainka, Zverevo, Udachne, Novosergivka, Kotyarivka, Orekiv, and Alexeyevka. The defense forces are holding back the onslaught and have already repelled 37 attacks. The United States has suspended arms deliveries to Ukraine. The media reported that there would now be no more Patriot missiles or shells. But now there is fresh news. The US is indeed sending Ukraine additional defensive weapons. But that's not all the news. Look, Lukashenko claims that the notorious Oreshnik will be deployed on the territory of Belarus by the end of 2025. As you can see in this way, the old man is directly threatening Ukraine. Meanwhile, drones from the main intelligence directorate set fire to a strategically important oil refinery in the Saratov region. At the same time, Russian propaganda is spreading information that Putin's troops are already operating in the Dnipropetrovsk region. Kirill Budanov responded to this clearly. He stated that Dnipro is threatened by Russian missiles and drones, but there is no threat of the occupiers advancing. Let's look at all the details. The United States has suspended arms deliveries to Ukraine. This concerns interceptor missiles for anti-aircraft missile systems and artillery ammunition. The order to suspend arms deliveries was given by the head of the Pentagon amid concerns about the depletion of US stockpiles, which have been running low after years of supplying weapons to Ukraine, as well as nearly 2 years of active operations in the Middle East. At least that's what NBC News reports.
They've suspended deliveries of missiles for the Patriot system, new Patriot systems, 155mm artillery shells, Stinger systems, Hellfire missiles. Those are air-to-air, I think, or maybe air-to-ground, I'm not sure, I don't remember, can't recall. Small diameter bomb systems that are launched from HIMARS. So that's the kind of list nomenclature of what has been suspended. In the most optimistic scenario, the most positive one, I assume that Ukraine was warned about this possibility in advance. First. Second, Ukraine has probably managed to stockpile a certain amount of these munitions. And the pause, well, we've already seen such pauses in deliveries might last weeks, maybe even months. And in principle, we should have enough resources to hold out until the Americans replenish their own stockpiles.
The delay in deliveries may continue until the stockpile assessment is completed. For its part, the US Department of Defense has not yet officially commented on the situation.
It is unclear whether the United States has given consent for these weapon systems to be transferred to Ukraine by third countries. We all know very well that there are international restrictions. Even if, say, Australia bought the Patriot system and it has been in service there for about 15 years, and it is entirely an Australian system, without the manufacturer's consent, we cannot transfer these systems to Australia.
Meanwhile, the self-proclaimed president of Belarus, Lukashenko, has reminded of his presence. He boasted the Russian Oreshnik deployed in the country by the end of 2025.
In Volgograd, we agreed with our elder brother, Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin, that the first Oreshnik positions will be in Belarus. By the end of the year, this weapon will be deployed in Belarus.
If only there was something to celebrate, we are well aware of the Oreshnik's capabilities.
Well, there will be an Oreshnik in Belarus, but it's just one. If they decide to launch it at someone, in response, a huge number of small drones will come flying, and Belarus has no defense against them. It's like, I don't know, you come to a river with a big club and threaten the mosquitoes, we're gonna hit you with this club. Well, of course, that won't work.
Meanwhile, in Russia, they've started modernizing their training grounds. They're setting up motorcycle tracks on them. Putin's command also plans to purchase up to 200,000 Chinese motorcycles for their army. The Kremlin is also continuing to strengthen its ties with North Korea. Russia has not only transferred Shahed drone production technology to North Korea, but is also training operators to control both FPV strike drones and other combat UAVs.
The transfer of these technologies is essentially the Russian Federation's payment for North Korea's assistance to Russia, for North Korea sending its military personnel to the Russian Federation. Perhaps this is how they settled accounts with the North Korean regime. There is a significant threat that North Korea, with all this production and all these drones they are now manufacturing or preparing to manufacture, will primarily pose a threat to South Korea and Japan.
And while the Russians are assembling drones with the North Koreans, Azerbaijani media have received anonymous materials that may confirm the involvement of Russian military personnel in the crash of the Azal flight near the Kazakh city of Aktau. Journalists reported that the editorial office received an anonymous letter containing materials about the plane that was shot down as it approached Grozny. It turns out that fire was opened on it by order of the Russian Ministry of Defense.
Azimuth 338, range 7,000, altitude 490, speed 118, cursor at 230. Yes, range is already 7. Fire. I said fire! Target successfully acquired. Proceed to fire again immediately. Firing. The Russian Federation will stick to the same position of denying the obvious facts. Accordingly, they will accuse the Ukrainian side of deliberately creating a situation in which supposedly Russian air defenses were forced to engage an aerodynamic target directly. We're talking about an Azerbaijani aircraft.
And while the Kremlin is coming up with yet another excuse, there's another pop in Russia. The Ukrainian armed forces struck an oil refinery in the Saratov region, resulting in damage to the plant's technological installations. The Security Service of Ukraine also hit an electromechanical plant in Izevsk, which is located in the Udmurt Republic. And now let's move to the Lyman direction of the front. The bloody rampage of the enemy army continues here as well. Today, on the Lyman front, the invading army launched 14 attacks on Ukrainian positions in the areas of Novimir, Redkodub, Zelenaya Dolina, Torske, and the Serebryanske forestry, as well as towards Serebryanka and Olovka. 3 firefights are still ongoing, on foot, on motorcycles, or in buggies. Russian paratroopers on the Soledar front are trying to storm Ukrainian positions. One wave follows another. To prevent the enemy from reaching the infantry fortifications, Ukrainian drone pilots and heavy artillery go into action. But unfortunately, it too has become a vulnerable target for the enemy. After all, the occupiers are hunting for the artillery crews. A Frontline report, specifically from Donetsk region by TSN journalist Ruslan Yarmolyuk, is coming up for your attention right now.
We have a young girl here weighing 27 tons, a truly good one. Her name is Natasha, and she actively helps us in the fight.
Yegor calls this metal lady Natasha. Although she is of a respectable age, she works flawlessly.
This girl has been working for a very long time. She's been working throughout the whole war, but she needs to be maintained.
A former trolleybus conductor, he has been at war for 4 years now. He is originally from Chernihiv. His wife stayed there, and he knows exactly why he is here in uniform.
My wife was giving birth. My wife gave birth in the maternity hospital, in the basement, without light, without water, without anything. That's how my second son came into the world.
In the green thicket, hidden from the prying eyes of enemy drones, the guys hide their Natasha.
There are a lot of FPV drones, so we constantly need a lot of camouflage. We have to keep hiding all the time so we don't get spotted, because they fly over very often. We even ask our comrades to fly over us sometimes to see what problems we might have or anything else. In other words, we fix these shortcomings.
Docent is a historian, by profession a school shop teacher, and in the war a loader for a self-propelled artillery unit.
Mostly infantry, mostly assault infantry. We repel assaults, because they like to attack in bad weather in the morning on motorcycles, on foot, in various vehicles.
In the Soledar direction, Russian paratroopers are actively trying to storm our infantry positions, moving forward on foot and also on motorcycles.
The infantry sometimes advances in groups of 5, 7 or 9. But if it's an assault, then of course it could be 20 or even 30 shells. It all depends on the situation and the target. It changes from day to day. Some days you might fire 2 or 3 shells, other days you might shoot 30.
In this crew, guys aged from 20 to 45 fight side by side. The youngest is the gun commander. While his peers are enjoying life, it's he who holds the sky above their heads.
I joined the service at 18. I started serving at 18, and now I'm already 22 and a half. Sometimes it feels unfair, unpleasant, but it is what it is. I don't really pay much attention to it. They're my age. Let them rest, let them live their lives.
Almost everyone in this crew has a higher education, and all are contract soldiers with combat experience in the ATO and JFO.
The most important thing is people's motivation. That is, those who are motivated, who came here from the very beginning, they immediately know why they are here. They know that they are defending their homeland, their families, and ordinary people who are working just like them. After all, someone has to make the bread.
New target, new coordinates. From the occupied Soledar, the enemy is once again moving in for an assault.
Fire!
They are tired after these years of war, but they are not broken. If the guys were rotated more often, especially in the infantry, there would be more willingness to fight and fewer cases of going AWOL.
The most important thing is rotations, so that there are people to replace others, so that no one stays at the positions for too long, because if someone is there for a long time, naturally fatigue sets in. Just like work fatigue and morale, their state of mind drops.
The historian has returned from vacation. A few days to adjust and immerse himself in a completely different world, the world of shelling and death.
Now the population doesn't understand. Maybe they've also gotten used to the war, but it feels like some of them think that this war matters more to us than to them.
Now let's analyze the operational situation on the Kramatorsk and Donetsk fronts. The enemy is becoming more ferocious here as well. On the Kramatorsk front, the aggressors are trying to advance in the areas of Markove, Pretlekain and Bilahora. Defense forces units have repelled all 4 attacks. On the Donetsk front, the aggressors are trying to break through our defenses near Delivka. Our defenders have already repelled 3 assault actions by the invaders. Another battle is still ongoing. The Ukrainian Armed Forces Underwater Special Forces are a secret unit that the enemy fears panic-stricken. Most of their operations are classified as top secret. Their tasks include underwater reconnaissance and sabotage in the invaders' lair. They guard bridges, inspect ships passing through the grain corridor, and neutralize sea mines. Exclusive details are coming up in the report by TSN Nedelia journalist Oksana Radionova.
In Istanbul, the construction and testing of 2 modern corvettes continues. They will bear the names of Ukrainian hetmans. The first is Ivan Mazepa, the future flagship of the Ukrainian fleet.
The Hetman Ivan Mazepa corvette is highly modern, built exclusively with NATO standard weaponry.
The corvette is capable of engaging submarines, aircraft, and both surface and land targets. Construction of the second corvette, Pavlo Skoropadsky, is ongoing. This is an elite special unit of the Navy combat divers. We head out with them on a mission into the open sea. We are moving out on several boats. The first one is flying the white and blue Alpha flag, which means divers are at work. Most of their operations are classified as secret. Their tasks include underwater reconnaissance and sabotage. They guard bridges, inspect ships passing through the grain corridor, and neutralize naval mines. Anatoly is the only one who doesn't hide his face. But in reality, he's a demining ace. He has an impressive number of operations to his name and over 2,000 hours underwater. Just imagine that's months spent under the immense pressure of the sea.
But when I'm down there, I enjoy it. It's a completely different world down there.
Today, the divers are working in tandem with a unique underwater drone called Syfax, which translates as Sea Fox. It's packed with cameras and special equipment that allows you to spot mines, rockets, or other dangerous objects even at night and neutralize them, even deep underwater.
Our advanced drone doesn't possess any metallic components whatsoever, so that absolutely no mine will detonate upon direct contact with it.
The Sea Fox is ready to dive. The guys are launching the drone underwater.
Like all advanced unmanned aerial vehicles, commonly referred to as drones, you maintain complete and precise control over the device remotely. It diligently obeys your every command and instruction, meticulously performing exactly what you desire it to do, ensuring a highly responsive and seamless operational experience.
Especially in the hands of a jeweler. Before the full-scale invasion, the drone operator used to make jewelry, and now he meticulously clears our sea of danger.
It looks like a rocket.
It was identified and neutralized in time, just like dozens of others. This week, all Ukrainian mine countermeasure ships Cherkasy, Chernihiv, Mariupol and Melitopol, which were provided to us by our partner SARE, taking part in the International Sea Breeze 2025 exercises. In Portland, UK, together with allies from 19 countries, they are training in joint demining operations. This is extremely important for us because the Black Sea is teeming with mines. This work will take years. This river flotilla of the Navy on the Dnipro appeared in 2022. In the north of our largest waterway, these guys stop enemy sabotage and reconnaissance groups from Belarus and protect the capital from Shaheds coming over the water. And in the south, the flotilla's boats are involved in extremely complex landing operations.
We had a combat mission in Kherson to land on the islands. Our task was to deliver the landing force to reinforce the area. And we also evacuated the wounded back home.
They have been serving since the very first day the flotilla was formed. On the boat, he's a grenadier, but he used to serve as a sailor on the Sagaidachny. And it was precisely his experience that saved his comrades from death.
That night we brought in 10. They landed perfectly, everything went well.
Suddenly the enemy opened fire on them.
They hit so hard the water was boiling artillery, drones, airdrop munitions. Then they started firing at us from the shore with heavy machine guns. After that they began hitting us with anti-tank guided missiles.
The boat dodged 2 of them, but the third one hit the wheelhouse. The commander lost consciousness, and so did our hero. Despite severe injuries, Bury was able to get his bearings and steer the boat out on his own.
With God's help we made it out. The boat started working and we managed to get out and evacuate everyone.
Everyone survived. The boat is still in service to this day. The enemy did not get any classified documents or weapons. Bury was awarded the Order of Courage. A long rehabilitation is now behind him. Doctors advised him to leave the service, but he doesn't want to abandon his brothers. And he's back in action.
We fought, and we will keep fighting.
But the Navy is not just the fleet, it's also airplanes and helicopters. And a powerful reinforced feast on land, the largest self-sufficient Marine Corps in Europe at the moment.
Today, our brave and dedicated Marinees are exceptional warriors, say, highly capable, incredibly knowledgeable, and thoroughly trained to operate effectively at sea, on land, and in the air, across all operational domains.
At the moment, the Marines are holding the front in various sectors. These are warriors capable of quickly crossing water obstacles and seizing bridgeheads. And we know where, how, and why. So Ukraine was, is, and will remain a maritime nation.
And now it's time to analyze the situation on the Novopavlivka and Huliaipol fronts. The Russian world continues to destroy, kill and maim here as well. On the Novopavlivka front, Ukrainian defenders have repelled 11 assault actions. Another 8 clashes are currently ongoing. The enemy tried to advance in the areas of the settlements of Podubne, Fedorivka, Voskresenka, Shevchenko, Novozelka, Volnepol and Novopilia. On the Huliaipol front, fighting is ongoing near Malinivka. Ukrainian defenders have already repelled another enemy attack. The Russians attacked the Betitsky Starostat in the Sumy region with 4 UAVs. As a result of the strike, 2 people were killed. It is noted that throughout the day, the enemy systematically attacked this region, air bombs, a missile strike, and drones. In general, the Sumy and Donetsk regions, as well as Zaporizhia, remain the hottest spots for combat clashes. Right now, we will tell you what is happening on the front lines at this very moment.
Fake occupation of the Dnipropetrovsk region, the prospects of Korean reinforcements in Russian units, and Russia's attempts to launch a new offensive in the Sumy region. We have gathered all the latest news from the front. If we can't take it head-on, we'll go around. On the most difficult section of the front near Pokrovsk, the Russians have decided to use a new tactic. The military reports a decrease in direct assaults on the city's defensive lines, while at the same time noting that the occupiers are trying to encircle the settlement. Their success is so minimal that analysts consider Russia's main objective for today to be unattainable.
Right now, we are seeing a phase of the operation in which, over the past few days, they have been trying to bypass Pokrovsk from the east, attempting to break through to the north from the highway that connects Pokrovsk and Kostiantynivka, expanding the so-called wedge along this road. How successful have they been at this? Partially. But to say that there will be any significant change in the situation in the near future is unlikely.
However, the situation could change in the Sumy direction and not in favor of the Ukrainian armed forces, according to the Western press. In particular, the enemy has concentrated up to 50,000 reserves here and will try again to advance toward the city of Sumy, reports the Wall Street Journal. However, analysts believe that these forces will not be enough for the Russians to advance further. And even despite the apparent advantage in infantry, the Ukrainian armed forces have fortified themselves here enough to put up a worthy resistance.
The number of armored vehicles is an indicator of what is happening on the battlefield and reflects the nature of the fighting. So there isn't enough of this armored equipment to break through. But in terms of numbers, where the enemy can build up resources, that is, in infantry and manpower, they really can outnumber us in strength and means.
The topic of the Dnipropetrovsk region also continues to appear in Russian propagandist Z channels. The day before, the occupiers fabricated yet another fake victory for themselves there and even claimed to have occupied the village of Dakhna.
The General Staff refuted this information and reported that the village is under the control of the armed forces of Ukraine. Apparently the Russians did enter there, but they were driven out.
But from time to time, somewhat truthful information does make it onto Russian airwaves. Thus, in particular, the Kremlin's main mouthpiece Solovyov made the reservation the day before that the occupiers' affairs are not as good as in Putin's reports, in particular in the matter of using drones.
About drones,
The enemy has superiority depending on the specific area from 1.5 to 2 or 3 times. The whole world is gathering together and doing it on our knees.
The occupiers are also experiencing a shortage of personnel. Given the losses that Russia suffers daily, there is simply no way to make up for the lack of cannon fodder. And here it seems North Korea might once again come to the rescue. CNN reports that another 30,000 North Koreans may join the ranks of the Russian armed forces. Intelligence agencies are recording new confirmations of this information, and this time the deployment of mercenaries is unlikely to be limited to just the Kursk region.
it looks absolutely realistic that these units will be used on the territory of Ukraine. But according to the Russian constitution, from their point of view, there are no violations in this. And it's important to understand that the enemy will become stronger. North Koreans are a rather serious adversary who cannot be ignored.
However, North Korea should also not ignore the fact that by fully entering the war against Ukraine, it is obvious that the West will replenish our military supplies, especially when it comes to long-range strike capabilities. And many of Kim's soldiers simply won't make it to the front.
So look at what happens. Ships, airplanes, and vehicles transporting military personnel and cargo become legitimate military targets for North Korea. Because according to the norms of humanitarian and international law, including the Geneva Convention, any equipment transporting armed forces to a combat zone is considered a military object. That's all there is to it.
Overall, according to information sources, the front line is currently relatively stabilized, and the past few nights in Ukraine have clearly shown that, unable to achieve success on the battlefield, the Kremlin has switched to striking the rear in order to weaken our units by disrupting their logistics and making it harder to supply weapons.
Nothing has stopped there, nothing at all. The fighting continues. Even if the deep state project doesn't update the map for a long time, it doesn't mean the military is sipping piña coladas, cleaning their weapons, and relaxing. It means that the Russian Federation is not making any advances. On the other hand, they are simply ramping up pressure on the rear infrastructure. By and large, I estimate that roughly 3/4 of the targets Russia aims at are military, or generally anything connected to the army, anything related to military units.
At the same time, so far, the Russians have not managed to disrupt supplies to the Ukrainian armed forces. On the contrary, after receiving reinforcements, including additional strike capabilities, there have been quite successful counterattacks by the defense forces in recent days, especially in the Sumy region.
That's all for today. But very soon, Front News will bring you new unique reports from our journalists in the hottest spots of the war, gathered so that you know the truth. This was Volodymyr Timoshenko with you. Take care of yourselves and your loved ones.